trustees, we are here to set goals and policies and oversee the management of the district. We are responsible for approving budgets, contracts, personal appointments, and to listen to reports from the superintendent. We are not here to make administrative or management decisions pertaining to the daily operations of the district. This is the responsibility of the superintendent. In compliance with the State Government Code on Open Meetings, today's agenda has been appropriately posted. This is a meeting in the public, not a meeting of the public, and as our guests, you are welcome to observe and listen. These proceedings are being video and audio recorded and will become part of Judson's permanent legal record. In order that the tape adequately reflects these proceedings, please silence your mobile devices and refrain from talking while others are speaking. Since it is legally mandated that these proceedings are recorded accurately, I may have to ask for order periodically should I notice that disruptions are interfering with our recording capabilities. Once again, I extend to each of you a sincere welcome from the entire school board. Thank you for your interest in Judson ISD. I have established a quorum, and I will call roll. Ms. King?
Ms. King, present.
Ms. Eaton?
Ms. Eaton, present.
Ms. Canoyer?
Suzanne Canoyer, present.
Ms. Perez?
Claudette Perez, present.
Mr. Diaz?
Diaz, present.
And I am Renee Pichelle, present. To my left is the Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Jeanette Ball.
Welcome.
We have established a quorum, and at this time, pardon me, I swear to you, I'm not. All of a sudden, I just got choked. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I am not sick. Thank you so much. How did you have these on hand? Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, Ms. McKinney. At this time, we will acknowledge our visitors. We have one person that has signed to speak, Ms. Marilyn McKinney, Judson Education Foundation, and General Concerns. Ms. McKinney?
I have some general concerns regarding any proposals you might be considering in terms of reopening. First of all, 30-minute free lunch. I have received concerns from teachers across the district in terms of this. The elementary teachers seem to be expected to carry the burden for this. Please understand, teachers fought long and hard to get 30-minute duty-free lunch. It's a state statute. And to expect us to give up 30 minutes of our duty-free lunch, you need to understand the reality of our existence. Take my situation. I start at 7. I don't get a break till 5 hours later when my children go to lunch. That's when I run to the bathroom, along with my colleagues on my grade level. Please don't take that away from me. I train my kidneys to, for 5 hours, but I don't know if I can go until it's, or not go in this case, until it's time to go to specials. I would also suggest that if you're going to consider taking away the 30-minute duty-free lunch from elementary students or teachers, consider taking it away from secondary teachers as well. Secondly, required after-school tutoring and required Saturday tutoring and office hours. Are we going to be compensated for this? Because all of this falls outside the parameters of the instructional day. And if you're going to pay us for this, please pay us more than $25 that you've been paying forever. I started in this district in 1985. You tutored, you got $25 an hour. It's still $25 an hour. You had money to pay people extra from March to May to come in and do their jobs. You have the money. You need to have the political will to pay for the services that you want. And once again, this applies to elementary teachers, not secondary people. You see, they have a mindset that says, oh, we can do this to elementary people because they'll take it. They won't say anything. You need to bear in mind, it's the elementary people that lay the foundation for your future academic success. And if you would lay a good, strong foundation, you would get people to come, they would stay, they would continue through middle school, through high school, and your scores would also be good. Third, textbooks. If we're going to go to virtual learning and online things, you need to make sure that all of the textbooks are easily and readily accessible online. I know we have that capability, but trying to get to them in some cases is just a nightmare. And if I have trouble doing it, chances are some fifth grader and their parent aren't going to be able to find the textbook online. And finally, fifth grade science. We have STAR tests in fifth grade science. And 30 minutes a day, every other week, alternating with social studies, might work for K through 4, but it's not going to get you scores that you need on a science STAR test. So please take this into consideration before you adopt any kind of proposal regarding the reopening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McKinney. Item 3, discussion and consideration of action items. Consider and take possible action approving a budget amendment to the 2021 fiscal year. Dr. Ball.
Yes, ma'am. I do have a slide. Can you turn your mic on? Yes, ma'am. Sorry about that. I do have a slide, so just give me 1 second. Thank you, Bill. So last month when we met, that was our formal meeting to approve the budget. So at that time we had a discussion in regards to technology and regards to coming back if we were to need anything from our budget. So every day we learn something new and something different. Today I shared with my colleagues and I shared with Ms. Eaton that I learned that if any district enrolls a student from a private school, that we will not get funding if they decide to go virtual. So that was something new. I share that with you not because I want to discuss that, but because just to prove the point that every day there's something new. So a new thing that I would like to talk about is a one-to-one initiative. Judson ISD has lacked in the area of resources when it comes to the technology. Our goal was always to wait and to do this hopefully with a bond. So there is no time to wait right now. So looking at the big picture of this, our students at Judson ISD, they deserve the very best. They deserve to have the equity gap closed and to provide them with the resources that many other school districts are providing. When we did this in the summer, we were thrown to do this rather quickly, really overnight. So we made the best with what we had, and we did loan out devices, but loaning out one device per family really won't work. Many times there's 4 or 5 kids in a family, sometimes 5 or more, and that just isn't feasible. It truly isn't. So now we've had time to look at the TA plans. Though it can change, though things are changing, though there's a lot of rumors that we might open up just remotely, we don't know really what could change. We want to make sure that we're prepared. Even if we didn't go remotely, I strongly believe that this is something that our school students deserve to have. We're working on various things to make sure that a one-to-one implementation goes well. For example, the training that goes along with it. There's academies that we're providing for the teachers to attend. There's training for the parents that we're asking the parents to attend. There's also the Wi-Fi connectability that we're looking into. Currently, our parking lots at elementary are being Wi-Fi accessible, I guess is the right word. We're also going to be looking at, and we are looking at, having buses with Wi-Fi capability stationed in, I don't say remote, in key areas of our district to be able to have the parents log on from home. If y'all would just scroll that up a little bit for me. We've also purchased some already. We've also have some available for different funding groups such as CTE, special ed, McKinney-Vento, bilingual, special, all different types of special populations. So what I'm asking for the board to do is to approve the one-to-one initiative and allow us to get the money, and being very transparent that the money is coming from our fund balance. People sometimes call it our savings, the fund balance, the rainy day funds. Again, want to remind everybody, and Bill will remind me if I'm wrong on the figures. At the end of this year, we estimate that will be about $64 million in our fund balance. Okay? Is that a good, healthy fund balance? It depends. It's a hard question to answer. When you think of the budget that we approve, $64 million isn't a lot. If we continuously dip into the fund balance, absolutely. You know, it could be concerning. But at the same time, taking out the $4 million for the project, and I'm giving rough estimates. I know on the paperwork that you have the exact figure, which is 3.75 or something like that, but I'm just rounding up. So I also want to mention that there could be a lot of different ways that we might not be even spending as much next year. All of this is still part of the unknowns. So I would love to hear questions or comments in regards to this action item.
Okay. So, thank you, ma'am. Y'all know I like that 2.5 million, right? That we kicked out before. So this is going to be additional to that, right? As far as buying laptops, tablets, hotspots.
It would be Chromebooks right now. So it would be enough Chromebooks to move forward with having a one-to-one initiative, not leaving anybody out. So every student would have a Chromebook for them.
Starting at K or 1?
Starting at K.
Okay. Now, the hotspots
Mhm.
that we purchased before, when we took care of the other issue,
Mhm.
will we need very many more, or how would that work?
It depends. So, you know, it's hard to tell right now because some parents have gone, first they didn't have it, then they went ahead and purchased it. So we would be having a survey and contacting the parents, and whoever needs them, we would still, provide it in different ways, either through the Wi-Fi at the elementary, through the bus, or through purchasing a hotspot for them. And I know my team is dying probably to share some more, so I don't mind letting them to share if they would like to.
You have something, you have more on this, and then I'll hold my questions?
Right now, what we currently have in the district is we have some hotspots for our bilingual deaf kids and our special ed kids. We don't have any for general students. And so these would be for general students, and the way we're purchasing them is we would have to pay a one-time $40 per device fee. And then every month it's on, it's $40. But when we turn them off, we don't get charged. So the goal is to get them out when necessary, and try and minimize the amount of time they're on.
And just to let you know that right now we do have some hotspots on the CTE side, mainly because we had a grant, and so through the grant we were able to purchase some hotspots for our students because of the TSI testing. But on our survey that we're about to send after the board meeting is over, then we do have, the question is, do you have Wi-Fi connectivity at home? So hopefully with that answer, we should have a more accurate, I guess, number as to how many we would actually need. And it's like Bill says, we only turn them on when we need them. You know, when we don't need them, we turn them off. That's
So, like during the Christmas break,
That's a great opportunity for us to turn them on.
unless the students have work to do.
Exactly. We're turning them off.
But if they have work to do over that,
If they have work to do, then we have to leave those on. But it could be just spotted. It could be that maybe only secondary might need them versus elementary. It just depends on where we're at that time.
okay, thank you, Ms. You know, it's just, wow, so much uncertainty. But the bottom line is I would rather be prepared than wait till the last minute and have to do a knee-jerk reaction because, as they say, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Right, and even if, and I know Ms. Bettis has a question, and I do want to get to that, and I probably others, but even if, let's say, we didn't ever have to go remotely, this is something that's extremely important to our students and to our community, because for several reasons. This technology is the wave of the future.
Exactly.
When they go to college, if anybody has students or you've gone to college yourself, everything now is being turned in remotely. Seldom, almost never, do you turn in a paper like this, you know, through a hard copy paper. Professors all are working remotely, so I think it's only fair that we prepare our students to face that.
Well, if you kind of recall, I did mention that, and God, it looks like we're not going to get the support that we need from Austin as far as what we would like to see happen with the kids being in school. But remember, at one point we had a meeting where I mentioned that even if we have to bring them all in at the beginning so that we have to get some type of evaluation on them some kind of way, that it would be best to get them broke in on them. So a half a day maybe doing something on it, and then the rest of the day, however the teacher has their classroom set up. But just to, as you stated, Dr. Ball, for familiarity purposes, to get them comfortable with it, to get the parents comfortable with it. You know, we got thrust into it before. Now we have a little, just a teeny weeny bit more reaction time, but still, we're talking 5 or 6 weeks from now.
Right, and then I do want to share that most likely they will not be here for the first day of school. So I want to.
And I can understand that, because everybody's going to be
Yes,
ordering.
ma'am.
Exactly. Thank you. That's for right now. I'm good.
Thank you. Madam President?
Ms. Perez, did you have a question?
Yes, I'm in support of the one-on-one technology initiative as it relates to devices. I guess my concern and what I'm still trying to get my head around is how the connectivity piece of it, because you could have households that have children in various grades, and if they don't have the connectivity, the Zoom call I was just on, literally there were 7 children in that household, all in different grade levels. And so I'm, thinking, how do they, I could see going to elementary school to upload or download assignments, but if you're trying to have real-time instruction, how could that happen if the family doesn't have connectivity?
Right.
That's my concern. And so as we figure out those hotspots, I think there almost has to be a triaging depending on the diversity of grade levels or the number of children in that household that may need to access simultaneously to different teachers in different locations at the same time, because I don't see how you could, asynchronatically go to a parking lot and you have various grade levels trying to access the information at the same time. The logistics of that is what is, I'm having a hard time understanding how that would, especially when you have households with multiple kids, all needing to access instruction at the same time.
Right, and I'm going to repeat most of your question, or maybe just the gist of it, because we are having some issues. Excuse me, I just got distracted, sorry.
Ms. Perez, check your volume.
I can hear you.
No, but we can hardly hear you.
But I think I could hear the gist of it. The gist of it was you're more concerned with the connectivity of it and the Wi-Fi. You stated that you were in support of it, but you'd like to hear a little bit more about the connectivity of it, correct?
Especially in the context of when you have have households with, multiple children at different grades, all needing to access instruction during that school day.
Right, and Ms. Robinson is going to speak, and when she starts, just give us the thumbs up that for sure you can hear her, okay?
So once the family gets the hotspot, it's actually good for several users. So when you go down to the bottom on your settings and on the computer or on the Chromebook, it's gonna pop up. And so it's gonna ask the question, can you allow others to use the hotspot? And the answer is going to be yes. And so even if you have 7 children within the household that need to use it at the same time, you simply say yes, and then the hotspot will go to each one of the Chromebooks, and it'll allow for them to have the connectivity. So the question is, how many families are going to need the hotspot? So what I have asked my directors to do was to identify by special pops as to how many families are out there so that we can actually start kind of working on the number that we need in order for us to make a decision on how many we need to purchase. But it's going to be by family, not by student. And so because once you see the special pops, then they'll either fall into Title I or they'll fall into SCE. And so that way we don't have a supplant issue.
But Ms. Perez, aren't you, Ms. Perez, can you hear me?
Connectivity, that Jetson is going to provide that connectivity? Is that our objective?
So we have on the survey that we're sending out to our parents, we actually have a question, do you have connectivity at home? Because if the answer is yes, then we don't need to help you. If you don't have connectivity, then we need to go back and take a look at what is out there as far as AT&T, the cable company, Spectrum, and to see, okay, what kind of offers do you still have for our families, and make those available to our families, those that can afford it. Those that cannot afford a Wi-Fi, then those are the ones that we really need to look for and say, okay, we need to give your family a device, and hopefully in your family, there might be 3 or 4 or 5 kids that actually need that hotspot. Once that family has that hotspot, we can all share. And I'll give you the example, senior staff, sometimes when we used to go out on meetings, somebody would carry a hotspot, and then we would all join in on that one hotspot, just because that hotspot was on the table, so we would all take advantage of it so we could get on our laptops. And so there were 7 of us on the table, 7 of us got into that one hotspot so we could run our emails and all those kinds of things. So the thing is, we have to identify our families, and that's part of the survey right now. And as we start looking at it, we're going to start literally just taking it apart and seeing exactly which families do need the hotspots.
Ms. Perez, Ms. Eaton wants me to clarify that you are saying productivity, not connectivity.
Connectivity.
That's what just connectivity. Thank you.
And the last question I have is, are we, or will we also try to bring the educational foundation into this conversation so that perhaps they can too help contribute in filling the void?
And not just the Education Foundation, but also we are scouring for different grants that could possibly also help us. So that's also something that we're looking at too. We're looking to maximize any resources that we could find that could support this.
Thank you.
Ms. Canoyer?
Thank you, Ms. Michelle. I have been a big proponent of making sure that we keep a healthy fund balance, and it's precisely just for situations as this that we have wanted to be fiscally responsible, have a balanced budget, and not dip into the fund balance more than necessary. And I'm awfully glad that we've had the leadership that we've had in terms of financial stewardship, because we can do things like this. I think it's imperative that we go to one-to-one, not just because of this situation, as you said, but also because that is the the future of what instruction is going to look like. And again, I'm echoing everybody, we're in uncharted waters. We don't know from day to day how things are going to change, what guidelines are going to come into play, what guidelines are going to be changed. We see this situation, we just have to be as flexible and fluid as we can. I know there are people out there saying that we should not be providing connectivity, but we have families on a good day who don't have the funds to pay for internet. We're not in those good days. We have families in this district who absolutely cannot scrape up the $40, $60 a month, whatever it is, to get connectivity for their children, and yet they are going to need, for whatever reasons they have, to have those children learning remotely. So we can't just brush our hands and say that we're not going to service those children. We don't have that option. We are not a private school. We are not a charter school who can turn down students. We have to take who comes. And we do happily. I don't want to make it at all sound like I'm not happy about that. So I want people who are listening to understand, and this is what I said to my students for many, many years, fair does not mean equal. What is fair is what each person needs. If you go to the doctor and one person has a broken leg and one has a headache, it's not fair to give them both the same treatment. You know, the kid with a headache doesn't need a cast on his leg, and the kid with a cast on his leg is not going to get better just by an aspirin. So we are looking at each family. We're addressing those needs. I know that we're not just handing out devices and hotspots willy-nilly. There's accountability to make sure that this is what they're needed for. I know that teachers who have these students enrolled in their classes are going to be following up and making sure that they are the students are actually accessing the information that's being provided, and that there is accountability there. I fully support this. I don't like the hit to the budget, but it's necessary.
Mr. Diaz, did you have a comment, sir?
I do. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Please go right ahead.
Fantastic. No, I just want to speak in favor of this. I've spoken about this in the past. Unfortunately, COVID is the backdrop that we find ourselves in now. However, this infrastructure that we're hopefully voting on here shortly is quite necessary to ensure that our children, our young scholars, have that infrastructure that they need to become digitally literate, to build on the potential pathways to opportunity that are, via this technology route. But also we find ourselves in an environment, in a society where technology is necessary. But with that said, let's be very clear that, and I don't think anybody believes this, technology won't be replacing our educators. So it's incredibly important that we invest in this tool to ensure that we have these channels to provide additional access, an engaging, enriching environment, to help cultivate and foster some of these skills, however, still be a backdrop of support to that educator and that instruction that they're going to be providing. Secondly, I fully agree with the need to ensure that we can, first we tackle the hardware, then we tackle the training, which I think Dr. Ball mentioned we're going to be doing to ensure that we can leverage and maximize the use of this technology with our educators and in our own homes. And then lastly, to Mrs. Bettis's point, ensuring that we have the right infrastructure and the strategic infrastructure to provide accessibility and connectivity to families and to students. I think the San Antonio Digital Alliance or Digital Inclusion Alliance, I can't remember the name, had a study recently, and it showed that 25% of households in San Antonio lack access to internet. That's a big number. It's small in terms of the metro area, but it's a large number because access is critically important, especially when we talk about minoritized communities that usually use this access for things such as job searching, access to resources, so on and so forth. So this is perfect. This lays in the foundation. We're doing our part to bridge that digital divide, especially in communities that need it urgently, especially in this time. However, not only is this going to be appropriate for the short term, this is quite necessary for our long-term approach to ensuring that we have the best attempts at education possible in this district. So fully supportive. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz. Ms. King?
I think having the one-on-one devices, I think that's very imperative at this time. And so, yeah, I'm in favor of that. It's very important at this time. And I think with COVID coming into play, it just makes everyone realize that there has to be different options, though. And so this is preparing us for the future for these students. Like you said, you know, once they go to college, they're going to be doing a lot of things online. And so this is getting them ready for school, for college. And I think it's very important. I'm happy to know that there's going to be Wi-Fi in the parking lot. I know there's a lot of logistics that has to be looked into, but I'm curious to see about the surveys and see, you know, how many really needs this Wi-Fi support. And so I think it's very important.
Thank you, Ms. King. I'd like to, pardon me? Yes, I was just going to acknowledge that at 3:03 p.m., Ms. Rodriguez joined the meeting. Hello, Ms. Rodriguez. Glad to have you. And let's just publicly just tell her happy birthday. Happy birthday, Ms.
Happy
Rodriguez.
birthday.
Everybody in the room just wished you a happy birthday. Go right ahead if you wanted to comment. If you wanted to comment on this item.
I think I just wanted to maybe ask which item are we on? I think we're on the one about
The one-on-one initiative,
I also
students.
wanted to ask, are we in closed session or are we in open session?
We're still in open session.
Okay, thank you. I'll take a second to think about if I have a comment or not.
Okay, that's fine. I'll just step right in and say, Dr. Ball, I completely support this initiative. I know that it is necessary, and I don't need to spend a long time dwelling on it. I support the initiative, and I piggyback off of everything that everyone has said. Thank you, Ms. Eaton, for starting off the conversation and sharing with us your concerns. I know that you're very, very concerned, especially our spec ed kids. You know, we really know that they need the consistency, they need collaboration, they need face-to-face, they need one-on-one. And I know that population is probably the most concerning, but I do support the initiative. Have you had a minute, Ms. Rodriguez, or do you not have anything to share? It's okay if you don't.
Yeah, no, thank you. I just needed a minute to kind of gather context of where we were and what had already been covered. But I think that I have shown that this was a priority for me throughout the budgeting process as well. So again, I'm fully supportive. I think that it is an investment that we would have liked to have done over time. And maybe not be in the position of having to take, money out of our reserves, but that it is just necessary given the context that we need to be prepared for in this upcoming year, and to be on par with what other districts are offering to their students and families. So I'm supportive as well.
Absolutely, and we are doing the same as other school districts in Bexar County, so, yeah, we're in support of this.
Madam President, I'll make a motion then that we approve the budget amendment as presented.
The motion has been made. Is there a second? Second. Motion has been made and seconded. At this time, we'll take a roll call vote, and I'll start with Ms. Perez. Ms. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Perez, aye. Ms. Rodriguez?
Jennifer Rodriguez, aye.
Mr. Diaz?
Rafa Diaz, aye.
Ms. Canoyer?
Suzanne Canoyer, aye.
Ms. King?
Shatanya King, aye.
Ms. Eaton?
Deborah Eaton, aye.
And Renee Pichelle, aye. This motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. I know that on behalf of the staff and the students, I would like to thank the board for this. I think this is monumental for our district, something that we've all wanted and been waiting for. So, you know, though the times are hard, I think this is a good thing for our students.
Let's move on to Item 4, we're going to do 3B in closed session. So we'll move on to item 4, discussion items and reports. Discuss parent options for the instructional delivery models for elementary and secondary students. Dr. Ball?
Yes, ma'am. So we're really excited. First of all, I want to thank a lot of staff. A lot of staff have worked on this, and a lot of good planning discussion has come from this. So a lot of people will have lots of questions, so we have some information right now, but I want to preface everything with, lots of things happen on a daily basis that changes things. Lots of things happen that also people talk without knowing everything. So please keep in mind that what we're sharing with you is fresh and new, and that I know there's going to be lots of questions, but in time, it's all going to get worked out. So we are going to start first with elementary. These are the delivery models for elementary parents to be able to choose from, and then you will hear from secondary from Ms. Robinson in just a few minutes. So I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Davis.
Hi. Thank you very much for everything that you're doing for our school district. So good afternoon, Madam President, board members, and Superintendent Dr. Ball. Today we're going to share with you the elementary instructional delivery models that we have been discussing. Specifically, I will share the elementary campus models. And as you know, a couple of weeks ago, our Commissioner of Education shared that we are going to be allowed to provide remote learning, and it would be allowed for funding as well as face-to-face models. So at that time that he shared with our superintendents, everybody got busy and started thinking, what would that model actually look like? And what would be the district's decision as to what is best for our community? So I was tasked in working with the elementary principals to decide what instructional delivery models would be best for our students. So with that said, we have sent several surveys to our community. One right after everything happened back in March and towards the end of the year, and then another one recently about how parents felt in returning back to school. We also drafted surveys for our staff. We were able to gather feedback through even social media, direct feedback from parents reaching out, wanting to share with our principals that was later on shared with us. So we have gathered a variety of feedback through various sources. And for elementary, the elementary principals as well as senior staff is recommending two options. The first option is face-to-face, which we all know as being the traditional setting where students would come to school Monday through Friday and receive instruction from a live teacher. The other option is remote instruction, which we know as virtual instruction. This remote instruction would be offered as well Monday through Friday. Students would be able to learn from their home with their device. And through this remote instruction, they would have the opportunity to engage in lessons with their teachers through live virtual instruction, as well as have the opportunity to engage on their own time through game-based settings or through pre-recorded lessons. You might be wondering why we did not consider the hybrid option, and so I'd like to explain the why behind that. For our community, we felt that many of our parents for elementary children are working, and it would not be appropriate to leave a, say, second or third grade student on their own. And if, in fact, we had offered the hybrid option, we also learned later from our commissioner that parents could still choose the hybrid option but still drop off their child at the campus. Given that information, we knew that it would be difficult to just allow that option and then still be able to move back and forth between the different options that parents would select. So for those reasons, we felt that this was the most appropriate option given the age of the students, either face-to-face or online. With that being said, I'd like to just briefly define synchronous and asynchronous instruction, just because you'll hear me say those words periodically throughout this presentation. The remote instruction that is allowed can happen in two formats. It can happen in asynchronous setting, which means that the student can log on at any time, work on predetermined assignments, work on game-based learning, and engage with their LMS or learning management system. This is important because this is the type of instruction that is the only type of remote instruction that would be allowed for pre-K through second grade. That's not to say that we wouldn't actually, as a district, make the choice to ensure that our teachers would engage with, especially the younger students, with those live virtual settings, because we know that you can't take a student from a non-reader to a reader with just games and read-alouds. It takes more than that. Then we have synchronous instruction. And this is the type of instruction that takes place face-to-face, computer to computer. So the students would be able to interact and engage with a live teacher. This would be the instruction here at Judson ISD that we believe is the most important when we're trying to learn new material. And so with that said, synchronous instruction is the type of instruction that is allowed together with asynchronous instruction in 3rd through 12th. Pre-K through 2nd only can receive asynchronous together with synchronous, but it's got to be formatted as that. And then synchronous instruction together with asynchronous goes on through 3 through 12. So when you hear those words, you'll have a better background as to what we're referring to. So with the face-to-face traditional setting, I think we all know what that looks like. But what will the J learning at home look like? And that's what we're terming our new enhanced remote learning experience. Please remember that when we offered virtual learning back in March, we did so on an emergency situation. COVID-19 occurred, we learned about it over spring break, and we had to be ready with remote instruction, with instructional packets within a matter of days. So we're educators. We've learned so much from then. We've taken the feedback and then we've worked on a plan on how we're going to improve that for our students coming this fall. Because we know that instruction, even virtually, will look different. Mostly because back then, every district was focused on keeping the foundational skills. We're not going to learn any new material. This is an emergency situation. Let's just make sure the students are logging on and retaining what they've learned. But no new material was technically required, no new learning. But we know that's not going to be the case moving forward. And that's also another reason why that one-to-one is so important. So that's the first thing, if approved, one-to-one device for all the students, because that's the only way that new learning will take place. We're no longer just going to focus on foundational skills. We're going to learn new material. Then, of course, as you heard earlier, we're planning on installing Wi-Fi at all elementary campus parking lots, plus the additional buses that will have Wi-Fi so that students can have connectivity along with their one-to-one devices. Learning kits with resources. This is another thing. When you think back to March, nobody wanted to go and touch any books. The books were in the classrooms and the students were at home. But now we're going to have the opportunity to start fresh and be able to provide our students with those consumables, those workbooks that come with our adoptions. And so learning kits for those students that choose the virtual option will still be delivered at periodic times, let's say every 6 weeks, every 9 weeks. That's a decision that we can make together with our principals. But that is something that they didn't have access to when we went into our emergency situation back in March. The other thing we want everybody to understand is that even though you may select the virtual option, extracurricular clubs and programs will still be available to you because we know this is very important for students. And so should you choose to take part in that, that would not be denied. Of course, you heard me mention before, learning is no longer just retaining the foundational skills, but it's going beyond and learning new material. And we will start a Judson ISD Academy online, and I'll show you an example of some of the things that we're going to offer. But we know that parents are our partners in education, and sometimes it's difficult for a parent to help a student out when they themselves might not know how to navigate our Judson ISD portal. So that's an example of one of the online academies that we would offer parents virtually in the evening from the comfort of their own home. Then we have virtual tutoring during after school and virtual tutoring office hours. This would work through the asynchronous instruction because teachers might not be teaching at precise moments the way we would if they're virtual teachers. So there's a way to ensure that our teachers can both provide instruction through a virtual setting that's interactive, as well as have time to plan, receive their duty-free lunch, and provide specialized instruction or interventions when needed. And this would go back to that careful planning that would be conducted over the next few over the next few weeks to prepare for the fall. And then, of course, virtual Saturday support for parents and or students and parents. All teachers will receive specialized training and support in virtual learning. In fact, this is a requirement from TEA that our teachers need to receive specialized training on offering synchronous type of instruction online. Here's an example. You'll later be seeing this on the curriculum and instruction website where the calendar will be interactive, and parents will be offered every Monday around 7 p.m. an opportunity to join some both pre-recorded sessions as well as some live virtual interactive sessions. And then we've selected 2 Saturdays a month to be able to interact with parents too, for those parents who a 7 p.m. night might not be the best for them. But we are going to start in August so that parents can start preparing, how do I navigate a learning management system with my child? How do I navigate the Judson ISD portal? How do I ensure that I can look at my students' grades and ensure that they are progressing academically? So I'm going to start with pre-kinder and discuss some instructional guidelines of both virtual and face-to-face instruction. Obviously, for face-to-face instruction, we want to ensure that our small group really is small. Sometimes, for sake of time, we tend to make those groups a little bit larger than they should be, but now more than ever, we're going to ensure that there are no bigger than 3 to 4 students. We're going to personalize our centers so they will no longer be community centers, as well as ensuring that there are no longer community school supplies so that every child will have access to their own supplies. Outside visitors, especially in pre-kinder, will not be allowed into the classrooms, and temperature checks will be required daily. Temperature checks is a requirement for Head Start, but we're extending it to all of our students in pre-K3 as well as pre-K4. And then, of course, personal napping mats. At that age, they still nap, so we want to make sure that they're napping in a sanitized area. But we also want to train our students who are receiving face-to-face, train them in an LMS, train the parents in using an LMS. Should we ever have to go into an emergency situation again, our students who are face-to-face will know how to handle online instruction. And so the remote instruction at pre-kinder will be asynchronous, but together with synchronous learning. There will be previously recorded direct teach mini lessons, but there will also be time for students to come online for those who have chosen the remote option. And we understand that it is important for our students to socialize, that it's important for our students to be able to play a fun game with their teacher. And so that is something that we do not want to take for granted, especially in our lower levels. It's really important for all children. But virtual teachers will also require daily progress checks for monitoring student progress. Now here, the previous slide was speaking directly to pre-K. This slide is speaking to kinder through 2nd grade, and you can see that there's really only one change in the face-to-face instruction, and that students who enter kinder will now participate in the specials rotations that pre-kindergarten students are not required to take at that time. So they will still participate in PE. We're adding library to the rotation, technology and music. This will allow this will allow our teachers to take that duty-free lunch and still take their planning while students are receiving their specials rotations. So it helps also with the master schedule per se. Remote instruction would still be the same. It will be an enhanced remote instruction experience. Students in grades 3 through 5, I'm going to take one slide to talk about face-to-face and one slide to talk about remote instruction. Teachers will be required to use the standard learning management system, and this is really for some TEA parameters that are required now. But campuses will still have the option to use additional platforms as long as it's consistent across grade levels. We understand that consistency is key for our students, especially if the parents select a certain option today, but for reasons of health or any reasons, they might select a different option at a later time. Campuses will be required to provide face-to-face or virtual after-school and Saturday tutoring on a rotation basis with teachers, and library will be included in the rotation skills, but we want to ensure that guidance lessons on social emotional learning is still more than ever very important for our students, because we feel the repercussions of COVID-19 and being alone in the house, and so do our young students. Breakfast and lunch would be in the classroom to ensure and to minimize really just moving from one place to another. And lessons will still include whole group mini lessons. They'll still align to the district scope and sequence. And this would aid students that move from a face-to-face to a virtual setting. That could possibly happen throughout the year. And it will also include small group instruction, but with reduced numbers. And also, even our face-to-face students, we're going to start making a shift of providing our unit assessments online. We know that in education, we are still held to an accountability that's measured through something called STAR this year. And we know that's not going away. And so, as we move forward, our students need to have that practice of taking assessments online, and so that's a shift that we would be able to make this year, especially with additional devices. Now, for 3rd through 5th grade remote instruction, our students would be provided both synchronous and asynchronous models. We will use a standard learning management system. Third-party apps will be added to ensure that our students are not just participating in a teacher is speaking, student is receiving modality, but there is a way to make our virtual interactions engaging and interactive. And that's what our technology conference that I'm going to plug in our technology conference next week, and over the next 4 weeks that we're offering to our teachers is going to focus on those third-party apps that will allow a teacher to make that interaction through a remote setting engaging, that will allow the students to jump into the PowerPoint and manipulate things. And so, of course, everything else is the same as I've mentioned before with the remote instruction. But I'd like to show you a sample of what a sample schedule could look like for a 3rd through 5th grade student. And quite frankly, it could be a sample schedule for a pre-kinder, with times, of course, being different, because the times would be different for younger students. So it would include both synchronous and asynchronous type of learning. Again, please note that this is just a sample district schedule. Every campus would, of course, develop their schedule differently. It could be that they want to offer English language arts first prior to math. But the students participating in synchronous learning would still receive that direct mini lesson from the teacher. They would still have an opportunity for guided practice and checking for understanding. They would still receive independent practice. Through synchronous learning at elementary, students need to receive a minimum of 3 hours of instruction that is face-to-face remotely with a teacher. Live virtual is what it's called. And so if they were in a school, they would be in a school for at least 7 to 8 hours. But if they're doing virtual, then they could do synchronous learning, and on alternate times, they could log on to asynchronous learning. For example, for a PE lesson, that could be pre-recorded, and students can perform an assessment through their learning management system. The key for asynchronous learning is that a student must still show daily progress. So there must be daily progress checks. And that, of course, is different than our remote instruction back in March. So once we started thinking about that remote instruction and that what face-to-face instruction would look like, I think everybody's still wondering, what about our students that receive specialized instruction? What about our students that need interventions, students that would still need a one-on-one support? That is not going away. That is still a requirement. And so no matter which option parents choose, whether they choose a face-to-face, that's required, and whether they choose a virtual, that's still required. So it's up to us to ensure that that's still going to happen. Teachers would still receive IEPs, 504s, and we're still going to offer the students the services that they deserve. And so whether it is a student in a special education setting, a student receiving response to intervention, dyslexia, gifted and talented, bilingual dual language GT, these students would still be receiving the services they need, whether that's online or whether that's face-to-face, because it is our responsibility to still keep the integrity of our education no matter which model the students are receiving their education in. And so here are some suggested instructional considerations across the gamut. We're still going to ensure rigor and coherence of instructional materials across the options. We still need to ensure that our students are being progress monitored on a daily basis. We still will have to meet certain requirements from TEA, as well as our own requirements that we're imposing just to meet the quality of education for our children. And we have to think about how to deliver our instruction differently, simply because we're entering a new era. One of the things that we're excited about is to develop a Master Instructional Technologist program, sort of a trainer of trainer models that would require certain certifications to become strong in virtual teaching, just as we expect teachers to become strong in face-to-face teaching. It's not that we just reserve the best teachers for one or the other. We have to be best at both. So we are considering many options and different types of professional learning for our teachers this fall. Oops. Then some logistical non-negotiables to consider for our in-person. We are asking all of our teachers to declutter. Sometimes we would bring things that would just look nice in the classroom, but as we are considering social distancing, we need to make sure that we declutter, purge some of our furniture, ensure that breakfast and lunch is in the classroom, reduce the number of students in certain rotations, and sanitize between rotations. So all of these are considerations that we're going to plan as we move forward. For the virtual instruction, as we mentioned before, one-to-one devices would be needed in order to continue to have that high-quality instruction. Technology support and device replacement plan is something that we need to consider as we adopt new devices, and then the instructional learning kits are something that's going to be new, fun for the students to receive, and something to look forward to if you're receiving instruction from home. And then next step considerations. So we have met as a team, we have taken feedback, and we're sharing a plan with you right now for elementary instructional delivery options. We need to select quality teachers. We need to consider student-teacher ratios as we move along. Our teacher professional development is on the way. We're preparing for that. We understand that common planning across all options, whether virtual or remote, is still going to be of the utmost importance. An LMS system would ensure that our teachers would also be able to collaborate and share some of the lessons that they've designed. We understand that a grading policy has to be consistent across all models. So whether a student chooses a face-to-face or a remote option, TEA is saying we cannot grade differently. So we need to ensure that we take a look at those and update those specific grading guidelines. Parent requests to change learning model, we understand that this could be a possibility, so how do we take that into consideration and ensure that as students move between models, that there's consistency in our scope and sequence. More than ever, a scope and sequence is going to be key for the students. A virtual learning framework, what would that look like? And I showed a sample schedule earlier. timeframes to record attendance, what would substitutes look like. So there are so many scenarios that right now, this is just phase one, presenting the instructional delivery options, but there is so much more that's about to happen, and that is currently happening right now as we consider the best type of instruction for our students, whether it is that they choose to go face-to-face or remote at the elementary. This concludes the elementary portion. So if you all have any questions, I'm open to questions now, or I can wait for Ms. Robinson to give her secondary portion and address questions at a later time.
What say the board? I do too. I do too about elementary, so do you mind if we go ahead and
Sure.
ask those questions? Ms. Canoia, go right ahead, you have the floor.
Thank you. I know that as we survey our parents and ask them which option they want to choose, they're going to have specific questions in mind that are going to need to be answered in order for them to be able to choose that. And among those are, well, what about transportation? What's that going to look like for their kid? Because that will influence decisions. What about entering the school itself? What's that process going to be like as they walk into the school? Are there temperature checks? Are we limiting children being close together, those kinds of things? Are we going to require masks in classrooms? And I'm not asking you to answer all these. I just want you to know that this is what I'm hearing from people in the community, that they need to know this before they're able to make a decision. What is the class size going to look like? Because that's going to influence them as well. And then for my own question, since we're putting library into the rotation, will we have librarians at every campus? And that's something that we need to consider. And then a big concern is making sure that we have nurses at every campus. We know that our biggest hot spot in all this is going to be those young children who don't truly understand the severity of what the conditions are, and that we make sure that we have areas to quarantine children at school, that we have all those procedures in place. And I know you're thinking about that, but I want to make sure that the people who are listening understand that these are things that they'll have answers to when they make their decisions.
Yes, if I could just add that after both presentations, I'll share our rollout program, which then answers some of those questions.
Real quick, just because my
Ms. Eaton,
question
go right
goes
ahead.
with Ms. Canoia, I had one parent ask me, because she's a little nervous right now, and I understand. She said, so if a teacher or a staff member or several students come up positive, are we going to shut that school down for 14 days and clean it? You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
So now the students the whole school's got to go home for 14 days and then come back, and, so it kind of goes along with what Ms. Canoia was asking.
Yes, ma'am. So at the end, once you hear the secondary, I'll address all the rollout questions. There still might be some more, and we'd be happy to address them too.
All of my questions are rollout questions. Every one of them. I'll wait, because they all are, and they're all my questions. I haven't had anybody to ask me anything, but after reading all of the information, I have several questions. Ms. Rodriguez, go right ahead.
Yes, I had one question regarding specifically elementary, and then I'll hold the rest of the questions, which I assume are rollout questions. I noticed it said that bilingual dual language elementary teachers will be responsible for both the face-to-face and the virtual teaching. And that maybe this isn't a question, but more of a concern. I was a little bit concerned about the burden that places on those teachers who are already absorbing often a lot of extra responsibilities in translating materials into Spanish and things like that. So recognizing the work that they're already doing, I was just wondering, is there some way that we're giving them extra planning time to plan for the virtual classroom? Because you can't just teach the same lessons in a virtual environment that you would do face-to-face, and how we plan on managing that. Or was I misinterpreting what that bullet point meant?
Yes, ma'am. So we would have a selection of virtual teachers that would just be dedicated to that. as well as teachers who would solely be dedicated to face-to-face. We do understand that, especially in the circumstance of being bilingual, you basically have just your one bilingually certified teacher teamed together with the ESL teacher. So we are considering, depending on the results that we get back, how many parents would sign up for the online version who are enrolled in a bilingual, to have specialized teachers dedicated to that, because bilingual in itself does require a lot more extra planning, simply just because of the nature of translating materials and the nature of the dual language framework, where students would have to come in for a specific SLAR versus an ELAR lesson, and certain non-negotiables as a preview, review, and things of that nature. So they would be separate. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I'm good. Good afternoon, Madam President, board members, Dr. Ball. So I have the secondary portion of it, and a lot of what Ceci talked about, what Ms. Davis talked about, are actually on my slides too, so I'm going to kind of just skip over those slides just so that we don't have the repeated information. Oh, here we go. And so I start with just, let me go.
So sorry to interrupt, but when Stephanie was presenting, Ms. Davis was presenting, I could see the slides on the front. Those might need to be carefully developed and Robinson. Thank you.
Click on the Zoom button at the bottom.
She said she could see Ceci's. No, she could see Ceci's, but she couldn't see these new ones, so something must have happened.
Okay, can you see it now, Ms. Rodriguez? Okay, so I was saying that some of the slides are duplicated between our two PowerPoints, so I'm going to just go over those real quickly, okay? So this is a secondary portion of it, and we started with just the best assumptions of saying that our new normal is going to have to provide different instructional models in order for us to meet the needs of the students, the parents, and of course, our community. We're really trying to plan with the safest learning environment possible, and knowing what our new normal is that basically we're going to have to be prepared for schools closures or quarantines during the COVID-19 as the numbers surge up and down. Okay. And so here, Ceci already talked a little bit about the two forms of remote learning in synchronous and asynchronous. And so just a reminder that the synchronous instruction provides a two-way, real-time live instruction. And so basically, we're wanting to do as much live instruction as possible because we truly feel that at the high school level and at the middle school level, the more contact that teachers have with our kids, the better it is. And so our focus is going to be try trying to have more synchronous, but we also acknowledge that we are going to have to provide some asynchronous, especially like, for instance, in CATE, in CTE. We understand and realize that it's hard not to do remote learning when you have to do, touch an engine and you have a virtual engine. So we totally understand and we get that. And so, needless to say, we're going to have to do the two things. So one of the great things that we did as part of our toolkit actually I'm going to give credit where credit is due. Dr. Taganoff has actually put a toolkit together for our principals, and she did a really outstanding job in literally just putting a toolkit so that it's everybody hears the same message at the same time and answers the questions and Q&A and everything all together. So it's really great. So one of the things we wanted to do was just put everything on a one-pager, because we really feel that one-pagers are super important. And so to us it was inevitable to put just, okay, what is Judson ISD offering? So you'll have this page there on you, and so basically it'll talk about the face-to-face instruction that we're going to offer pre-K through 12, and then it talks about the remote learning instruction that also is offered pre-K to 12. And then you're going to see some letters down at the bottom, and this is where secondary difference a little bit. So through our conversations with our high school and our middle schools, they really felt that they wanted to have contact with the kids as much as possible, understanding the norms that we have. So one of the things that they talked about was having this blended learning model, I guess. And so basically what it is you'll look at the very bottom is that the kids would be divided like within a classroom. Let's say we have 30 kids. You divide the 30 kids into group A, 15, and then group B, another 15. And so what will happen is that group A will come to school on Monday and Tuesday, and then they will go remote Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then group B will be divided, will again come to school, but they'll come to school on Thursday and Friday, and they'll have to have remote lessons on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And so they kind of thought that that would be a good model. Why are we going remote on Wednesday? To them, they really felt that they needed to do a deep cleaning in between groups coming in. And so they felt if we have the kids come in 2 days, do a deep cleaning, and then have the groups come in the next 2 days. So it was safety more than anything else. We're going to clean every day and disinfect every day, but you certainly want to be able to do that deep cleaning in between the two groups coming in. Okay. So the other one is JECA. So JECA is different. It's just the 9th and 10th graders, they have two options, and basically one option is to go face-to-face. And the college had actually had allowed for them to go face-to-face at the college. And so when we had the meeting with Northeast Lakeview College, they actually have taken a lot of precautions, and so the kids were actually going to have temperature checks when they walked in. They had to have a certain color of bracelet for a particular day when they were going to go into class. And so they did have that option. They also have the option of going remote as well. Okay, so our 9th and 10th graders have both options, face-to-face and also remote. The fact that we do so much with the college for our 11th and 12th graders, we decided that it would be best for them to actually go remote completely, because it only makes sense that they're doing it anyway. We might as well just continue with the trend that the college has. And then the last one that we have is JLA. And so what happens with JLA is that theirs is different because they have AM groups and PM groups. And so what would happen to them is that they would have an AM face-to-face or a PM face-to-face, depending on which group they land in, or they can choose to go remotely completely. And so the kids would have those different options. So, and hence, this is our entire instructional models for pre-K through 12th grade, including JECA and including JLA. And so again, I'll go back to the face-to-face learning. You know, students are going to be provided instruction in person on campus Monday through Friday. We had actually first started with a face-to-face where we did Monday, Tuesday, we closed on Wednesday, and then for deep cleaning, and then come back on Thursday and Friday. But after a lot of discussion, we kind of felt that, you know what, we're going to offer face-to-face, then we better offer just face-to-face. And so we just left it at that. I know that in Dr. Ball's conversation with the other superintendents and with the commissioner, one of the things that he said that, you know, if the parents want their kids to come to face, that we have to offer that opportunity. On remote learning, students we provided with virtual instruction, primarily teacher-led, and that's what we really feel, that teacher-led direct instruction in real time with additional opportunities for students to engage in interactive models or assignments that would support learning and already taught concepts. And so, yes, we're definitely thinking about doing most of it synchronized, but we realize that we are going to have to do asynchronous as well. On the blended learning model, and again, this combines just a face-to-face and also a remote learning. And mostly, this was thought out by the high school principals, and their main reasoning for this is because we do test EOC at the end of the year, at the end of December, and so they really want to have contact with the kids as much as possible. And so to them, this was their best model, that they felt that bringing in the kids part of the time and going remote part of the time was the best answer for them. Numbers are up there right now, so heaven knows what parents are going to choose, and if, you know, I don't know, a lot of it right now is the numbers are high. And so this gives us just an opportunity to basically break up the students again into an A group and a B group, and giving them the opportunity to come in between again have that deep cleaning on Wednesday to allow us to provide clean environments for both groups, for the A group and the B group as well. This is what it would look like, and just so you can see just a visual of what that would look like. Again, you know, Monday, Tuesday for one group, and then Thursday, Friday for the other group. This is what the instructional model, and this is kind of what we put on, this is actually the graph that we put on the parent survey, just so that they can, you know, to us it was important that they got a visual of what the options were going to look like, so we gave them this chart right here in order for them to actually see, okay, these are the differences between the models and what they look like. For JECA, again, the ninth graders have a face-to-face all week, and they do have only one course at Lakeview College. And then the 10th graders have face-to-face all week too, and they have two courses at Lakeview College. Again, Lakeview College was willing to do that face-to-face with a lot of precautions, okay? And then the second option that we have to offer is just plain remote learning. Everybody goes remote learning, 9th and 10th graders, all week long. And again, Northeast Lakeview College would also go remote as well. So they're actually giving us the option of which way we need to go. And as soon as we get the parent surveys, then we'll be able to let them know exactly which way we're going to be going. And then for 11th and 12th grade, well, they're already remote learning as much as possible because they're actually at the college most of the time. And so to us, it only makes sense that whatever few classes we had at JECA, those would go remote. And so those are synchronous because they're live. Those are going to be live at all times because the college professors will be providing that instruction. And this is what JECA's model would look like. Option 1, and again, face-to-face, or option 2, again, remote. Our Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesday, Thursdays for the college, are those for real? They're not. I just used them as examples because, again, it's going to be dependent on what we choose, what the college gives us. So it could be a combination of days, just depending on whatever we do choose, then the college will come back and give us whatever options we have for those classes, whether it's face-to-face or whether remote. And then on Judson Early Learning Academy, well, the kids are already used to an AM and a PM, and that's how they go to classes. So if they want to continue with that same traditional learning, then we'll give them face-to-face on Monday through Friday, face-to-face AM, face-to-face PM, and again, if they choose to go remote, then we have that capability. And this again would be synchronous and asynchronous, because there are some modules that we would have to go asynchronous with them. Okay. Prioritizing student needs and considerations, some of the things that we talked about on special education, especially with our life skill units, one of the things that we know, we do want to encourage the in-person model, basically because our life skill units, our kids are special, and so they require a lot of attention, and so definitely those classrooms can be split up, and we can keep the numbers low and still give them that quality education. We're still going to continue with co-teaching, both in person and in virtual setting. So that is not going to change as far as our special education program that we have. We have a lot of different software that we have purchased because, like Ceci says, we have learned from March, April, and May. And because we have learned, then we have gone out and actually sought software especially for our special ed children. And so depending on where they are and what they're doing, then we have targeted specific software that has already been purchased. Okay. Our CTE, we are targeting the small group instruction for virtual models. And the in-person skill assessments, that's one of the things that we really, and we've had this conversation even today, is, okay, how do I give that student that opportunity to work on that automobile or dental assistance or those kinds of things. We do have software that has some of that skill set, but there's some time in the school year that we're going to have to bring in the kids to actually show us the mastery of the craft. And so, and those we're just going to have to schedule in small groups. You know, you come in and we've taught you how to do this, we taught you how to do this. Okay, sometime during the day, we're going to have to form you in small groups, come in, show us your craft, show us what exactly the skills. And the kids need to do that because that's the only way that we can prepare them for the certification. It's not mandatory that we do the state certification, but it certainly helps the kids. And so if we can get the kids to get certified, then that's an added plus. We just have to be smart about how we're going to test kids. And we're going to test kids in small groups. We did something like that in the summer with TSI. We actually did TSI math for the CTE kids. And so we just brought them in small groups. Everything was virtual, but when it came to testing, we brought them into small groups, and then we allowed them to test, and we monitored. And so we just took a lot of safety precautions, and it all went well, thank God. Dyslexia, we had a conversation again this morning, and so we're targeting small group instruction for virtual models. If the kids come in, that's not a problem. We know how to do that, but the question is, how do we do the virtual model? And so those are some things that we did purchase the 29, thanks to Bill. We purchased the 29 laptops that we needed for the dyslexia teachers, and so they'll be able to actually have the software that is going to run on a good laptop so that we can provide that service. Fine arts, we had that conversation on Monday. And one of the things that we talked about is that in-person skill set, because we can have the kids record and do all of those kinds of things. It's the hard things like, for instance, marching band, orchestra, choir. Okay, those are the kind of, ROTC, those are the kind of things that we have to bring the kids in. And then like I was telling Mr. Witt, yesterday, it's going to be hard, Mr. Witt, because it's hard to social distance when you have a marching band out there. The kids have to take off their masks because that's the only way they can play their instruments. I said, so it's just going to have to be a lot of, spray, a lot of sanitizer, a lot of wash your hands, sanitize. We even talked about, how trombones are, they have to throw their spit or whatever. We talked about getting actually the doggy pads, where for them, and literally lay them on there and have them do that, and then pick up the pad, put on the gloves, pick up the pad, put it away, and sanitize. So we're trying to think of every possible angle that, what can we do to try to keep the kids safe? And so, again, a lot of that's going to be dependent too on UIL, what is UIL going to allow for us to do? So depending on what they allow for us to do, then we just kind of react to, okay, these are the safety measures that we can provide the kids. Kids are going to have to carry their own water. We're willing to give them water, but they got to carry their own water. We don't want them sharing water whatsoever. On the dual classes, the support for the languages other than Spanish, our Spanish is not a problem. We can get that done, but we do have some kids that came in like Wahili, and so we're going to have to literally get some specialized software just to deal with those particular languages that are outside of our regular norms. Okay. And then the timeline of events, Ceci, I think you went through this already, right? Okay, so the timeline of events, this is all the things that we're doing right now. These are the easy things. I think once this board meeting is finished, okay, then the work truly begins. And so this was hard putting it together, but I think the hard work is going to be as soon as we finish with this board meeting. And so things that we are actually thinking about is thank you from the bottom of our hearts for that one-to-one device. You have no idea how much that is going to help our kids and our community. The staffing considerations are again for the 3 models, and like Ceci says, we're going to try to look at the teachers and look at, okay, who's the best teacher for what area, depending on, and it's all dependent on the survey. The survey that we're sending out right now, and just to let you know, is just for planning purposes for us. It'll give us an idea of what is it that we need to do and how is it that we need to prepare. But the law says, the state says that 2 weeks before school starts, we have to send another survey out. So we're going to have to send the survey out 2 weeks before school starts, and then the parents can truly choose which model is it that they really want. So right now, this is going out, and we need it because we need to know how to plan. Again, special education and life skills, Apple units, those kinds of things. We're hoping that we go face-to-face just basically because we think we can offer a better solution for them. But if not, again, we have some specialized software for them for them to use. We're going to standardize the remote learning across the district, and that's very important to us because we can be actually, like Ceci says, we can be teaching face-to-face today, but tomorrow we have to close down because we had COVID cases and we have to go remote. So we need to make sure that our face-to-face and our remote are pretty much aligned. Our professional development, like Ceci says, we're starting our technology conference. It doesn't stop this summer. It's going to have to continue over and over again. The learning management system that we're looking at, we love the piece where the teachers can actually be able to access 24/7 if they have a problem or whatever, they will have access 24/7 to somebody from that management group to help them through the software. And so I love that one piece. So it's going to be we're never going to stop learning because there's so much to learn for us as far as teachers are concerned. And again, the safety measures and the sanitation, we're trying to take every precaution that we probably can. Dr. Fields has actually worked on that piece, and he's got a video that's ready to go, talking about everything from sanitation to the kitchen to the options for lunch and those kinds of things. So we're ready, but to us, we need to get through this before we can get to the other pieces. And that's all that I have.
Since you mentioned that, Ms. Robinson, could we show our other video right now? The one that we created, I don't know if...
we certainly can.
Okay.
The one that we just created Thursday?
Yes, Thursday, while y'all load that up, Thursday we created a video, and I'll keep talking until that's loaded and y'all tell me. We know that everybody learns differently and intakes the information differently, so we wanted to be prepared. So the staff came in and helped with a video this video is already ready to go in Spanish also. So we're really proud about that. So we have documents that are ready to provide parents information. But what I want to stress, first of all, because I'm excited, we have 488 people watching us. today. So we have 488 people watching us, and then we have our 10 here. So want to share that the reason for this delay and the reason for not answering all the questions is because we have been waiting. TA has shared with us that they are going to provide us guidance. Up until when I came to this meeting, there was still not a lot of guidance provided, so we have been waiting for that. So in regards to some of the specific questions that board members, the audience, or the people watching might have is, we are still waiting for that guidance in regards to square footage, in regards to the masks, in regards to the temperature checks. All of that, we're waiting to see if we are going to get guidance so we don't state one thing and then have to go back and change it. But we do have a document that has about 50 to 60 frequently asked questions. So as a team, we came together and thought of what could be some of the questions that people could ask us. So we developed a document that has those frequently asked questions that talks about things, anything from lunch, transportation. So that will be put out probably before 5 o'clock. Then we also have our video. There's also what I call a button that parents will be able to put their question on there, and then those will be answered automatically by staff members, because a lot of the questions I think will be very personal to their child and to their type of learning. So what we wanted to really do today is to let parents and staff know that there are going to be options. There are going to be options for their child. Now, the tricky part that comes, because I know lots of us have received these questions, is what am I going to teach? Am I a teacher for virtual? Am I a teacher for face-to-face? And those types of things. But as both of the ladies have stated, we have to get some more information. We're going to put out the survey. We're going to get that information. And until we have those questions, until we have that information, we don't know. If there could be a campus that 100% of the parents want virtual. There could be one that, people say, no, 70% of us, we're coming back. So it just varies. So it is going to take still a little bit more time, but we wanted the staff to know this is the first step that we have to take, is to share this information. So you let me know, Brianna, when you think it's ready.
And Dr. Ball?
Yes, ma'am.
For a question.
Yes.
And so I'm so happy to see that there's a variety of different options that parents can choose from. And so what if they change their mind?
Awesome question. And then that is addressed in the frequently asked questions.
Okay.
We are asking them to make a commitment, to make a commitment for, let's say, the 9 weeks. But in reality, we know that things are constantly going to be changing. As they are for us, they're going to be changing for the families. So we'll make adjustments. We might not be able to make the adjustment immediately by the next day, but we'll make an adjustment. And let's say they started off virtually. I'll give a hypothetical. Let's say they started off virtually and they maybe were unemployed and they didn't have a job, so they felt that they could provide the instruction virtually at home. Then the parent gets a job. Then they're forced to send them to school. We would be taking them and welcoming them, with open arms and open hearts. Vice versa could happen, that they come face to face, something happens, one of the parents gets sick, then they have to go virtual. So it could be vice versa, that things could happen. So we're ready to adapt. I know, and as I say this, staff that are hearing me think, wow, that's going to be difficult. I realize that, and we're not trying to be difficult, but at the same time, I believe our job is to provide excellent customer service, and we're here because of the students and because of our parents choosing Judson. So our job is to take the kids. We're ready. We're going to show the video. Hi. I'm Dr. Jeanette Ball, Superintendent of Schools for Judson Independent School District. We are living in uncertain times with many changes and questions. It's a natural response to have many emotions during this time. But what I want you to know that many people within Judson ISD have worked very hard to develop several plans for your child's education. The number one concern is safety. But safety, along with a plan that is effective and makes sense. Some may feel that coming together in a campus classroom is not a good idea. We understand that and have created a plan for you. Others want that face-to-face instruction for their child, but only if it's in a clean and safe environment. We have also planned that. We are using guidelines by the Texas Education Agency and health experts. But these guidelines do seem to change almost on a daily basis. There have been so many people involved in our instructional plan for the coming year, so I wanted some of them to help discuss what the options look like. We are still planning on school starting on August the 18th, and we are looking forward to seeing all our students virtually or in the classroom. Let's look at these instruction options available in Judson ISD as we plan going forward for next year.
Hello, my name is Cecilia Davis, and I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction at Judson ISD. I'm sure you are all wondering, what will our school system look like in the fall? Rest assured that at Judson ISD, we have been planning for quality instruction for your children, as well as ensuring that you have choice to select what is best and most comfortable for your family. At the elementary school, we have two available options for you. Our first option is our face-to-face instruction. This is what is known as the traditional setting, where your child will attend school Monday through Friday and receive instruction face-to-face from their teacher. Our second option is our remote online learning. This is where your child will learn from home. They'll have the opportunity to access a learning management system and receive lessons from their teachers through virtual instruction. Please know that our virtual instruction will look different than what it looked like in March. Our Judson ISD elementary principals are here to provide you some information so that you can select the best option for you and your child.
The entire Judson ISD elementary team looks forward to welcoming back our students this fall. For those families that choose the in-person learning option, we will ensure a safe and healthy learning environment by following local safety guidelines.
For example, keeping a safe distance apart, hand sanitizing stations, and the limit of sharing of school supplies.
Our quality education program will focus on providing engaging academic instruction and addressing the social, emotional, and creative needs of our students.
But wait, there's more. The virtual online option is a great choice for our Judson ISD students too. Every student in Judson ISD will be given their own device for optimal learning at home. They also will receive resource kits to be successful at home too.
Not only will our teachers receive online training and support, you as parents will also have opportunities for parent virtual training to support your child at home. Our focus on learning will go beyond just retention. Our quality academic program will include virtual tutoring after school and even on Saturdays.
But don't worry, we understand that students may still want to participate in extracurricular activities. If you choose the virtual option, students will still have the wonderful opportunity. If you have any questions, please visit our website and don't forget to fill out the survey and let us know your learning option for this fall.
Good morning, Judson community. I'm Rebecca Robinson, and I'm the Deputy Superintendent for Teaching and Learning. You're probably wondering at this point in time how we're going to begin the 2020-21 school year. I'm here to provide you some of the answers, and that includes 3 instructional models that we have put together. We have our principals here, our middle school principals and our high school principals, that are going to explain the models to you in detail. For now, let me just tell you about our three models that we have for our middle schools and our high schools. The first model includes a staggered schedule or / blended learning. This means that your students would be divided into either an A group or a B group. In the A group, the students would attend during Monday and Tuesday, and then they would go remote learning on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. The B group would go remote learning on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then would come in for face-to-face instruction on Thursday and Friday. So that is our blended learning option. Our second option is to come back in face-to-face. What do we mean by face-to-face? We mean that we start just like we do every single year. We bring the students in and we just have classes in the building. Our third option is the remote learning. This option will offer you the opportunity to learn from home in a very different manner than we have done in the past. During the March and April and May season, we had some emergency procedures done as far as how remote learning was going to happen. This time around, we have really invested in how we are going to bring in remote learning. There's two areas that we're going to focus on: synchronous instruction and asynchronous instruction. So the first one, synchronous instruction, has to do with the teachers providing live instruction and being able to basically communicate with the student. The asynchronous is going to be live instruction as well. However, the teachers will be recording and filming themselves and then providing that film or that video to the students so that they can learn a little bit more at their pace. So these are the three options that we have. We have blended learning, and we have face-to-face, and then the last option is remote learning. Here are going to be two of our middle school principals and two of our high school principals to explain to you the different models.
Judson ISD's middle schools and high schools are excited to welcome back our students.
Our staggered schedule option gives students the opportunity to learn in a blended environment that includes face-to-face and remote learning. Students would be designated to an A or B group and follow a schedule that allows half the students to learn on campus while the other half would be learning at home. This would allow for smaller class sizes and plenty of social distancing space.
Whether face-to-face or remote, the instruction will be interactive with the teacher, activities will be engaging, and additional lessons will be prepared to reinforce learning.
That's a great option for our students, and we can give you a couple more. Students can choose to attend school every day in our face-to-face instructional model. Hands-on learning on campus every day maximizes teacher, student, and peer collaboration. Students will also be able to access the online learning platform while on campus to maximize their development as 21st century learners.
Our remote learning option is a fantastic choice for our middle and high school students. We will provide quality instructions in a 21st century virtual environment with interactive lessons and support. Our students are already tech savvy, and we want to build upon those skills through this model.
Hi, for those parents that are wondering, so what is happening with JECA and with JLA? So let me explain to you the options that we have for JECA. For JECA, Judson Early College, we have two options. So one of them is going to be the face-to-face, which is option number one, where the student attends classes Monday through Friday at JECA, and also attends a college course at the Northeast Lakeview College. For our 10th graders, that is also the same option. Our 10th graders have the option of doing face-to-face, coming in to Monday through Friday in order for them to receive instruction, and then taking two courses at Northeast Lakeview College during the week. The second option is for our 9th and 10th graders is for them to go remotely. So we do have that option of the students totally going remote on remote learning Monday through Friday at their homes. Just a reminder that the JECA students will have a laptop and a one-to-one laptop available to them. Their college courses would also be remote, so that is also an option. So again, something to think about. So we have option number one, face-to-face, Monday through Friday, or option number two, remote learning, Monday through Friday. The third option, and it's really not an option, is for our 11th and 10th graders. So what is happening with Judson Learning Academy? Well, at Judson Learning Academy, we actually have two different options for them. And so I'm here to explain it to you. The first option is going to be option number one, which is just continue with what we have right now. We have a morning group and we have a PM group, and that will be face-to-face. So the kids will come in the morning during their assigned time and receive instruction there at JLA, or they can be in the PM group and receive instruction in the PM. That is option number one, face-to-face. The second option that we have is totally remote learning. That means that the student is taking all their lessons through a laptop. You're probably wondering, what if I don't have a laptop? Well, the district is making a commitment to offer you a laptop so that you can have that remote learning at home. So again, JLA will have those two options. They have the face-to-face with the AM group and the PM group, or they will have the option number two, which is actually remote learning.
Thank you for taking time to listen to the different options that we have available for your child. Please know that we're here for you. We are committed to providing the best possible classroom experience and the best virtual experience for your child. With Judson ISD, you know that you come first and that we will provide an exceptional experience for your child. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you very much for choosing Judson ISD. Thank you. So we have that same video, which we're not going to show it because it's the exact same one in Spanish. So that, along with several other documents, will go live on our website, and we're ready. And then parents will receive an email. I don't want to say an email. I'm trying to remember what the word is that Steve does. It's, I can't remember, but sorry. But they'll receive information letting them know that they can go in there into our website and see all the different options, have the letters, have the frequently asked questions. As we get more information from the state, we are going to continue to update that. So what I really wanted to do today was to share with the board what it is instructionally that we're going to be able to provide. Next week, we also have a board meeting scheduled. At that time, I'd like to continue to give the board an update because I know everybody wants to know the what-ifs on a lot of situations. But it was crucial for us to get this information out so parents could start to make some choices. Then we have that data to be able to decide, okay, how many virtual teachers do we need? How many face-to-face teachers? Also gives us more time to get information from TEA as with the other guidelines that they're going to provide us. But if there's some questions that we might be able to answer right now, we might be able to address those, or we might have to wait, but we'll give it a try.
Okay, I'll open the floor. Ms. Eden?
Okay, so is there going to be some time set aside? I know that we have some subs that are very consistent, you know, because I met a gentleman that said he had been subbing for Judson for like 18 years, you know, the district.
Sure.
So are we going to have time that's going to be set aside where they would be invited to come in and get some of the training along with the teachers?
Yep.
Is that
so
possible?
We will not be doing substitutes for virtual teachers. But if it's a face-to-face teacher, yes, we will have substitutes for that.
No, but is there any training, additional training that we would want to provide or share with them?
There'll probably be information that we would want to share with them. Absolutely.
Okay. And if we go to, for the JECA and the other
JLA?
high school, no, not JLA.
Okay.
If we go to the train, you know, the one day off Wednesday for deep cleaning.
Yes,
how, can we kind of see how that will affect the funding for the nutritional care facility? Because that'll be a day where we won't have any kids in.
Right, but we will always be feeding our kids.
Oh,
oh yes, ma'am. Even if the kids are virtual, They'll still be able to get the food, absolutely. So
No,
they'll
so it
staff.
won't affect the funding that we get from the state, because remember, we had some
Right.
concerns
It
about
could
that.
possibly still affect the funding if they're not coming and picking up the food.
Right, that's the part I was concerned about.
Yes.
You know, and then, for JLA, they're located over at the mall, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so we have the group A in the morning, Group B in the afternoon. Who would be responsible for actually doing that cleaning in between those two groups? Are we gonna have
There's a
custodial
custodian,
staff?
yes, ma'am.
Our staff or
No,
staff from the
custodial
mall?
staff.
From the mall?
No, ma'am, our staff.
Ours.
Yes, the mall staff does not get involved.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, what age can children be here in Texas to stay at home?
Like, what age could they stay
Be
home?
left alone, should I say?
I think it's 13.
13?
Uh-huh.
That's 8th grade?
Right,
7th,
and that's
8th
I think, the legal age. I think some parents choose to leave them alone a little younger.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have right now.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Canoia, do you have any?
I don't have any questions at this time because I'm going to go and look at that frequently asked question document. And I really appreciate that, and I'm glad we have this information to direct our parents towards. I just want to give my appreciation, because I know that we're reinventing the wheel as we're driving the car. And I just want to thank all our staff so much for all the time and effort they've put into this. I know there's been long hours, lots of debate back and forth, consulting with all kinds of different groups, and so I really do appreciate you all. Thank you.
Ms. Rodriguez, do you have any questions?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. First of all, I appreciate this download of information, and I think it did answer a lot of the questions that I had. And I know this has taken a lot of work on the staff's part. Two things. Number one, so an idea that I have seen other school districts adopt is having specific intervals at which parents can reconsider their option. I heard you say that, we'll be fluid, and like that, we might formally do that every 9 weeks. And I think both from a parent and a teacher perspective, as a parent, it's hard for me to think that I'm opting into one or the other for the rest of the year. And so having like a specific interval at which I will be asked again would give me a bit more peace of mind with my choice, and knowing that I have that flexibility. And then I think it would also help teachers to plan, and to be able to know how many students they might have for each chunk of time in person versus virtually. And so that might be something that we adopt, is at more at a specific interval, saying you're opting in for this interval. We understand if there's an emergency situation that you may need to change your mind, but that we ask you to stay with your choice under normal circumstances. Just something to consider. And then I think the other question I have is, do we, I think it said, parents, if you have questions, here's this frequently asked question document, etc. But do we have a mechanism set up for parents to ask questions? Is there going to be a hotline? Are we directing them, here is how you ask questions? Because I think otherwise we're going to get it from all sides. It's going to be random comments on Facebook posts. It's going to be calling the principal. And if we have a more streamlined approach, that might help parents understand how to elevate their concerns.
Right. Ms. Rodriguez, and again, I want to reiterate this for everybody that's listening. On the website, this time it is extremely easy. It basically says, click here and submit your question. So there is that capability to be able to do that. And those questions that question will be answered directly to that person, and then it'll be added to our frequently asked questions. So in case somebody has that same question. So I would suggest that people look at our frequently asked questions, on a regular basis, but on our website, that is specifically the area for this, and I believe we're calling it Return to Learning. It specifically has it's a link right there, click there, so it is pretty easy. I saw that last night myself on the sample website that hasn't gone live. Yes, that is also on the frequently asked questions. We are asking parents to make a commitment to the 9 weeks. We are asking them, but we do also realize emergencies happen both for coming in and coming out of virtual or face-to-face. So we want to be able to meet their needs, but we are asking them to make that commitment.
Ms. Rodriguez, do you have any more questions?
No, I think that was everything I had for now. Thank you.
Okay. How about Mr. Diaz? Do you have any questions, Mr. Diaz?
No, I don't have any questions. Everything was answered that I initially was curious about, and I'll wait until I look at the FAQs to see if anything else pops up. But just, thank you. This is a big task. It's a lot of working, moving, shifting, and unknown parts that we have to account for. So just ensuring that the district remain nimble, student-centric, parent-centric. That way we can fulfill our duty to these young scholars at every level while ensuring their safety is of utmost importance to all of us, I'm sure. But speaking as a dad, first and foremost, as always, I'm just happy that we're rolling this out quickly, and any additional resources that we need to put in place to ensure that parents have access to it in a clear, concise manner. And then obviously, as Mrs. Rodriguez said, to elevate any questions to a live person to ensure that we can address them on a one-to-one basis, because at the end of the day, this is about building trust and confidence in our system. And like I've always, mentioned, we have a great district, but I'm always looking to see how we can make it even better. So as long as we keep on learning from our experiences, I'm in a comfortable spot.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Ms. Perez, do you have any questions?
Yeah, well, the question I have is just kind of piggybacking on the comment of Ms. Rodriguez. If we have a significant amount of people that do not have access to the internet, so they aren't able to go to a web page to see frequently asked questions on a website, how are they going to be educated as to these options? Are we going to be mailing something, or is there going to be a call-in hotline? How do those who don't have access to the internet get this?
Yes, so after this, principals will get this information, so they'll have all of this, and then start reaching out to parents, whether it's a phone call. We're also asking them to be creative and do different things to make sure the information is reached by 100% of their parents, whether it's a virtual town hall meeting, smaller, group meetings where it's, social distancing and limited individuals attend at a time. So we are making a commitment of reaching 100% of our students.
Thank you.
That's a good question, Ms. Perez, because we do know that there still are families that do not have electronics and don't have access, and so how will they be able to see? So thank you very much. I'll move over here to Ms. King. Do you have any questions, Ms. King?
At this time, I have no questions. A lot of my questions was answered today during the presentation, so thank you guys so much for your hard work. I'm just really happy to see this kind of roll out for parents to be able to see and be able to get some information. And so I will definitely go to that frequently asked document and browse through there. So thank you guys so much.
Ms. Eaton, did you want to add anything?
I just have one more question, and it may be addressed with the questions, but I know we discussed last time that that rule that somebody in Austin mentioned. Somebody in Austin mentioned that, okay, if a student goes on Monday and Tuesday and then they're virtual the other 3 days. If they want to come in on Thursday and Friday, that we have to let them in.
Correct.
So, are we addressing, okay, if Johnny or Mary wants to come on Thursday, but their day is Monday and Tuesday, if you're here in the school, you must be in this particular area so that we can maintain control and know who's in the building? Are we going to have a designated area that they are told ahead of time, if you come up here, this is where you must remain?
Right. So, we have talked about all those different, situations, one-on-one type situations that are very unique that'll happen. So I know that Ms. Robinson has met with the secondary principals about that specifically, because she clearly shared with them that though we can offer the hybrid, okay, if a parent chooses to drop them off on their non-hybrid day, we still have to accept them and have a plan. So I know that the team has addressed that, and Ms. Robinson has addressed that specifically with secondary.
Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Ball, and thank all the staff for all this hard work. I know it's a lot, and it's a, what is it, fluid?
Fluid.
It's fluid.
Yes.
Well, absolutely, I know that the safety of our students and teachers, administrators, the district as a whole is the #1 priority. So my question to you is, all of the things that were mentioned earlier that Ms. Canoyer asked, transportation, entering the school, masks in classrooms, class sizes, nurses at every campus, librarians at every campus, are all of those things addressed in the FAQs?
Not the nurses, not the librarians. Go back to the, ask me, and then I'll say yes or no.
Transportation.
Yes.
Entering the school.
Yes and no. It doesn't specifically say it entering the school, but it talks about what the school day transitions will look like. Transitions is what we called it.
Okay.
Transitions.
So then that would be my first question. When a child enters the school, will there be a temperature check immediately?
At this time, we are still waiting for the guidelines from TEA to see if that's going to be required.
I did hear the governor say that masks are required now. So is mask in the classroom an FAQ?
That has now changed just recently,
Okay.
that it's not required.
Will teachers be required if students are not?
Only if it depends. We have to see what the requirements are at that time when we start on August the 18th.
Dr. Ball?
Yes.
There's actually a release that just came
know.
out right now.
I know, but but at this time, I don't feel that we haven't had a chance to look at it.
Exactly.
I got the text, but I don't feel that, we should answer that yet because we haven't had a chance to look at what the TA just released like 5 minutes ago. Thank
Amen.
you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's see, there was something, okay. So the students will be eating in the classroom. I did see, however, in the pre-kinder instructional guidelines, it says no family-style meals.
Right. So in the past, that is one of the instructional requirements that pre-K had, that they had to eat together, and it was a learning component of the instructional day, but that is not going to be done now.
They would serve each other.
Oh, okay. So that will not happen. So will they need to bring their own lunch?
Oh, no,
or
ma'am.
will
They will.
Lunch bags?
No, they'll get our lunch provided.
Okay.
They'll have our lunch provided.
Okay. Let's see. The other question I had was about temperature. What will the campus do if a student or a teacher has an elevated temperature?
Right. And there'll be safety measures put in place to make sure that the student is picked up by the parents. We will never be able to release who the student or teacher is because that is a violation of FERPA, but I think everybody already knows that.
Okay. The class size, you said that's mentioned in the FAQs?
Yes.
Okay, because that was a question. I had a question about the third-party apps, but Ms. Davis did answer that question.
Okay.
And there will be virtual after-school and Saturday tutoring. So I believe that that is something that is going to be necessary, especially if if they're choosing to do only remote learning. Will teachers volunteer?
Yes, I know that there's it's really not, for some campuses, it's brand new, but I can think of a campus last year that did it every single Saturday, and some teachers even volunteered every single Saturday, and I feel that they would have gotten their A because they were so close this year. But because they didn't take the test, they didn't. But I'm looking at one of them to thank her because I know she did it every single Saturday. So Sarah, we have some very committed teachers that volunteer. Yes, we'll pay them. We'll bring back to see if there's an option about increasing, and we'll look at those numbers. But they will be volunteered, or it'll be on a rotating schedule. So you don't have to give up your Saturday. Every Saturday, you
okay.
know ahead of time, mine is November 3rd,
Yeah.
That Saturday, that type of situation. And a lot of teachers are already tutoring on the evenings or afternoons, I should say.
And the virtual office hours, will those be a designated time for teachers to choose? Will they make up their own office hours time? How will that work?
It'll be during their day, during their regular work day.
During the work day, okay. I have another question about sanitation. How's that going to be done? Are there those spray?
We have those spray, what I call like spray guns that they shoot out, all over. So we do have that. We'll be using the traditional methods. We'll be using, the wiping down. We'll be using the sprays. We'll be using the guns. So all sorts of cleaning materials that we'll be using.
Okay. I think that's all my questions, and I'll also wait for the FAQs.
Okay. I think Ms. Canoyer had an additional.
Ms. Canoyer.
I do just have one more question, and that's, we're not requiring our elementary teachers to give up their duty-free lunch.
No, ma'am.
I knew
No,
that
ma'am.
wasn't right. That's
No,
state
ma'am.
law. We're not about to violate that. We are a district of innovation, but our innovation only allows us to modify the start date of our calendar, and there is no other way that we have modified that. So I want to make sure that all our employees who are listening know, we're not asking you to give up your lunchtime.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
In all reality, even the Commissioner of Education can't change that because that's in statute. So he cannot change that. So I can only imagine that, with the number of people that are watching, what the rumors are going to be after this. So there'll be probably some comical ones. But in all honesty, I do believe that Judson ISD has some amazing people, some amazing teachers that truly care. And you're somebody's mother, somebody's sister, somebody's brother, somebody's daughter, somebody's husband, somebody's wife. And we're committed to making sure you guys are safe too, because somebody loves you and you love somebody. So you're important to us and important to your family, and we want to make sure that we take care of our family too, which is our staff. So the biggest thing that I could ask for is patience. And I do have an open door policy, but give me a recommendation too. A lot of times I get all the concerns and everything, but I'm open to hearing recommendations because I'll be the first one to tell you that two heads are better than one, and we don't have all the answers because none of us have ever been through this before, but we are committed to doing by our community and by our staff. We will continue to work diligently to make sure we can provide more for everybody. So thank you. Thank you very much.
And I just would like to end this by saying thank you, Dr. Ball, to you and to your staff for all that you have done to put together a rollout program, instructionally and otherwise. Thank you so much. I know it's been difficult, but we support what's going on. So at this time, yes, we do. It is 4:42, and we will go into closed session. Okay, we are back in open session at 5:08 PM. Is there a motion on the floor for the personnel report?
I move we approve the personnel report as presented.
Is there a second? It's been seconded by, was that Ms. Perez?
Yes.
All right, thank you. And we'll take a roll call vote. I'll start with Ms. Perez.
Lynette Perez, yes.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Jennifer Rodriguez, yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Rafael Diaz, yes.
Ms. Canoyer?
Suzanne Canoyer, yes.
Ms. Eaton?
Deborah Eaton, yes.
And Ms. King?
Shatanya King, yes.
And Renee Pichelle, yes. Motion passes unanimously. If there's no further business to discuss, this meeting